Have you ever walked into your own home, looked around, and felt a quiet heaviness without knowing why? Not because the day was too busy, but because you are surrounded by things that haven't been touched, things that haven't been revisited in a long time. A broken chair that still hasn't been fixed. A wardrobe full of clothes, yet nothing to wear. Drawers packed with cables, papers, and objects you can't even remember owning. We often think these things are just taking up space, but in truth, they're quietly taking up our energy bit by bit. Every unused item becomes an invisible reminder that something is unfinished. And it's that sense of unfinished that quietly fuels stress, distracts your mind, and leaves you longing for some kind of space to breathe. Now imagine stepping into the home of someone who follows Japanese minimalism. Everything feels clear, intentional, and light. Every item has a reason to be there. But beyond the neatness, there's a deeper calm that seems to live in the air itself. In Japan, minimalism isn't just about getting rid of stuff. It's a way of living with mindfulness. They choose what truly matters and gently let go of what no longer serves their present life. And here's the beautiful paradox. The simpler their surroundings become, the more peace they feel. Less clutter means more clarity. Less noise, more freedom. When you're no longer surrounded by the unnecessary, you begin to have space to breathe, to think, to simply be. In this video, I want to gently walk with you through 5 everyday things that may be quietly weighing you down, and more importantly, show you how Japanese minimalism approaches them with thoughtfulness and grace. You don't have to change everything in one day. Just start with one object, one habit, one small corner of your home. Step by step, you'll begin to feel the lightness return, not just around you, but within you. 1. Broken items that need repair. Have you ever noticed that tucked away in your drawers, shelves, or under the stairs, there are always broken items you haven't thrown out? Maybe it's that desk lamp you love, but the bulb's been burnt out for ages. Or a small fan with a loose base, a slightly cracked photo frame, or even a watch that no longer ticks. You keep them there, perhaps with the intention that I'll fix it when I have time, but month after month, year after year, those items remain. Silent, waiting, carrying with them a stagnant kind of energy that quietly lingers in your space. Strange, isn't it? Why do we hold on to things that no longer serve us? The answer doesn't lie in logic alone. It lies in our emotions, in the hesitation to start, in a touch of reluctance, a bit of laziness, and an invisible attachment we're not ready to acknowledge. Some items remind us of cherished memories, a chipped cup from a travel adventure, or a blender we bought when we first moved out on our own. They carry fragments of moments we once held dear, and we can't quite bring ourselves to let them go. But sometimes, keeping broken things is simply because we're too busy or we just don't know where to begin. You might think fixing something will be expensive or tedious, or you convince yourself that someday you'll have the time to get to it. But someday rarely comes. And so, you continue living alongside broken, torn, non-functioning objects as if they don't exist. But the truth is they do, and they quietly add to the sense of heaviness, messiness, and sometimes even a subtle, lingering sense of defeat. In Japan, people see broken items differently. They're not seen as useless things to be discarded. They're viewed as opportunities to reconnect not just with the objects, but with oneself. The philosophy of Motenai teaches us to appreciate what we already have. What a waste doesn't just mean throwing something away. It means missing the chance to honor something that still holds value. Through this lens, repair is no longer a chore. It becomes a quiet ritual of gratitude. A way to say, thank you for what you've given me. Then, there is kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold. The cracks are not hidden, but highlighted, as if life itself needs to be healed with acceptance and reverence. A once broken bowl, now lined with golden veins, becomes something truly unique, its imperfections turned into stories of resilience. The Japanese even believe that well-loved items, when cared for over many years, can develop a spirit of their own, a belief known as tsukumogami. Rooted in Shinto thought, this idea turns everyday repair into something sacred, something intimate. So, if you're feeling stuck, heavy, or weighed down by something you can't quite name, maybe it's time to take a look at the broken things around you. Not with guilt, but with gentleness. Let this be the beginning of a small journey, one where you heal your home with your own 2 hands. You don't need to fix everything all at once. Start slowly. Set aside a quiet afternoon, sit by the window, open that box of broken things, and choose just one item. Wipe it clean, listen to its story, and if you can, restore it. And if you can't, that's okay too. Hold it in your hands, thank it for its service, and part with it kindly. Little by little, you'll begin to notice you're not just clearing physical clutter. You're clearing space in your mind. You're releasing the emotional weight that's been quietly pulling your energy down. And in its place, you'll start to create room not just on your shelves, but deep within your heart. And it's in that space that peace finally has room to enter. 2. Clothes that no longer spark joy. And now that we've learned to honor the act of repairing broken things, perhaps it's time to return to the closet, that quiet space we visit every day, but rarely pause long enough to truly listen. A wardrobe is a very special place. It doesn't just hold clothes, it holds pieces of who we are. Old versions of ourselves, moments that have passed, dreams we may have forgotten. There are clothes you once loved but haven't worn in ages. Dresses you saved for a special occasion that never arrived. Gifts you received, pieces you bought on a whim, things you kept because it felt wrong to let them go. And now, they sit silently, gathering layers of time, tucked into corners you avoid. We keep clothes for more reasons than we realize. Sometimes it's guilt over money spent. Sometimes it's hope that one day we'll wear it again, that our bodies or lifestyles might change. And sometimes, it's simply because we haven't found the right moment to let go. But no matter the reason, each of those pieces is taking up space not just on a hanger, but in your mind. Every morning when you stand before an overflowing closet and still feel like you have nothing to wear, it's more than confusion. It's a subtle kind of emotional weight. The Japanese offer a beautifully mindful approach to this, the philosophy of spark joy. When you hold a garment in your hands, you pause and listen inwardly. Does it make you smile? Does it make you want to wear it today? Or is there only silence, a flicker of hesitation, a heaviness you can't quite name? Spark joy isn't just about personal taste. It's about connection. If an item no longer makes your heart feel lighter, perhaps it no longer belongs to your present self. But sometimes, joy is not so simple, especially with clothes tied to memories, family, or values that run deeper than fashion. That's when it helps to pair joy with intention. To ask not only, does this make me happy, but also, does this still align with who I want to be? Ask yourself, does this piece reflect who I am now? Is it in harmony with how I want to live? If the answer is no, maybe it's time to thank it and gently let it go. Decluttering your clothes isn't about cutting things out. It's about coming back to yourself, back to simplicity, back to truth, back to the feeling of being truly you. What remains should feel like companions. A jacket that makes you stand taller, a dress that invites you to step outside, a scarf that brings comfort on quiet days. And for the rest, the ones that no longer carry warmth, let them move on. To someone new, to a new purpose, to a new beginning. When you release what no longer fits, you're not just clearing out fabric. You're releasing old expectations, past identities, versions of yourself that you've outgrown. And that is freeing in the most tender, beautiful way. You'll begin to notice that a smaller, simpler wardrobe, one filled only with what you truly love, can transform your mornings. You'll move through your day with more clarity, with ease, with a quiet confidence that says, I know who I am. And perhaps healing doesn't always come in grand, sweeping changes. Sometimes it begins in the quiet folding of a shirt, in the space left behind on an empty hanger, in the gentle decision to keep only what says, this is me. This feels like life. 3. Old electronics and extra cables. And now that we've gently parted ways with clothes that no longer bring us joy, perhaps it's time to turn our attention to a different kind of clutter, the quiet, often overlooked world of old electronics and tangled cables. The kind of items that don't carry memories, but still somehow manage to linger for years. Have you noticed how drawers, boxes, and hidden corners in your home seem to accumulate outdated chargers, old phones, mystery cables whose functions you can't even recall? Maybe there's a power cord from a laptop you replaced long ago, or a device that no longer turns on, yet you've held on to it just in case. These things rarely carry sentimental weight, but they often come with a familiar, lingering thought. What if I need it someday? It's a common hesitation rooted not in laziness, but in the quiet fear of being unprepared. a deeply human need to be ready for the unknown. But here's the truth, that someday rarely comes. And in the meantime, these forgotten items continue to sit taking up space, clouding your clarity, and quietly weighing down the energy in your home. The more outdated gadgets and unassigned cables you hold onto, the more chaotic your space becomes. And that chaos seeps into your mind, making the simplest decisions like finding a working charger or organizing your workspace feel heavy and frustrating. It may seem harmless, but slowly, silently, this kind of clutter begins to chip away at your peace. In Japanese culture, even these seemingly trivial items are approached with deep mindfulness. The philosophy of Matanai, the idea that nothing should be wasted, applies not just to food or clothing, but also to technology. Rather than mindlessly tossing or hoarding, there's a middle path: reuse, repurpose, and recycle with intention. In Japan, small appliance collection points are found throughout cities where everything from old phones to chargers can be responsibly discarded. But it's not just about disposal. It's about honoring the value that remains. Old phones are transformed into security cameras. Cables are repurposed for DIY projects. Functional items are donated to places that need them most. This isn't just organization, it's a way of living, where every object is treated with respect, right to its final use. Holding on to outdated electronics isn't just about wasted space. It's a kind of invisible cost you pay every day mentally, environmentally, and even financially. Many old devices still hold value if sold, donated, or recycled promptly. But left to sit for too long, they become nothing more than plastic and metal shells. Meanwhile, the environment carries the burden of e-waste, the fastest growing waste stream in the world, much of which is toxic when not disposed of properly. So when you begin the process of clearing out your electronics, you're not just tidying up. You're practicing discernment. You're asking yourself a powerful question. Do I still have a meaningful relationship with this item? Open that drawer. Face the box of tangled cords you've avoided for years. Touch each device and ask yourself, is this still part of my present life? If the answer is no, let it go with gratitude and with care. Because in the space that follows, something begins to shift. Not just in your shelves, but in your spirit. A new kind of clarity enters. Your home feels lighter. Your mind breathes easier. And surprisingly, you begin to feel more energized, more alive now that you are no longer tethered to things you've quietly outgrown. 4. Accumulated papers and outdated documents. After releasing the weight of unused electronics, perhaps now it's time to turn our attention to a different kind of clutter, one that hides in plain sight and yet quietly consumes our space, our focus, and our peace of mind. I'm talking about paper, those quiet, aging piles of documents that sit there as if they've disappeared, when in truth, they've been occupying far more than just space. Paper accumulates not for one single reason, but many. Old bills we think we might need, just in case, magazines we meant to read but never opened, manuals for devices we no longer own, postcards, letters, expired coupons, outdated records, and notebooks from school days long gone. All of them held onto because of a familiar mix of hesitation, procrastination, and the quiet voice that says, but maybe it's still important. And yet, when something is no longer timely, no longer serving a real purpose, it begins to weigh us down. That essay you wrote 10 years ago might hold memories, but it can also pull you backward into a version of yourself that no longer needs to be revisited. Those faded receipts may once have offered a sense of control, but now as they pile higher, they create more noise than clarity. Little by little, paper begins to spread. One drawer, one corner of a desk. Then it creeps into shelves, tabletops, and entire rooms. And each time you need to find something truly important, a contract, a document, a form you are forced to sift through the indecisiveness of your past. The visual clutter starts to whisper stress. The unopened envelopes tug at your attention. The presence of paper becomes a reminder of unfinished things, of choices delayed. In Japanese culture, paper is treated with quiet reverence, not through endless storage, but through simplicity, clarity, and rhythm. The philosophy of Matanai to honor and not waste applies here too. But it doesn't mean keeping everything. True respect for paper also means knowing when to let go. In Japan, there is structure, systems, gentle rituals. Budgeting notebooks like kakeibo help people track expenses mindfully without hoarding receipts. Monthly or seasonal paper purges are embraced as small practices of renewal. Important documents are digitized, and others are respectfully shredded or recycled. There's an understanding that keeping too much paper doesn't protect us, it burdens us. These aren't just organizational techniques. They are acts of mindfulness. When you pause to touch each document, you're listening. When you choose what to keep and what to release, you're practicing discernment. And in that process, you begin to rediscover clarity not just on your desk, but in your heart. You'll find that once those piles of paper begin to disappear, something magical happens. It's not just your workspace that feels lighter. Your mind begins to breathe again. When you sit down at your desk, you're not greeted by a crowd of reminders and responsibilities, but by spaciousness, by calm, by the promise of a fresh, unwritten page. And maybe healing sometimes begins just like that, with the sound of a page gently being let go. With looking at an envelope and saying, "Thank you, but I've moved on." With returning outdated documents to the cycle of renewal, rather than letting them linger in darkness. Because every time you choose to release the old, you're making space for the new. And among hundreds of forgotten sheets, all it takes is choosing to keep only what truly matters, to create the kind of peace that lets your soul exhale. 5. Expired food and cosmetics. Once the papers have been sorted and set aside, a sense of openness returns to the home. But there's another quiet corner that often goes unnoticed, one that touches our health, our daily rituals, and the subtle feeling of care in our lives. It's the shelf of expired food and forgotten cosmetics. Have you ever opened the fridge and found a bottle of sauce that expired 3 months ago? Or a jar of eye cream you once loved, now untouched for over a year? These items don't make noise. They don't take up much space. And yet, that's exactly why they tend to linger, as if they no longer belong in your life, but haven't quite been let go. Why do we keep things that have already expired? Sometimes it's because we simply forgot. Sometimes it's guilt. And often, it's the quiet thought, maybe it's still okay. Canned goods that get pushed to the back of the shelf. Half-used shampoo bottles replaced by newer ones. Lipsticks or lotions purchased on impulse, never opened. One by one, they collect like a layer of time, dimming the clarity of your kitchen and your self-care spaces. But it's more than visual clutter. Expired items can carry risk. Food that's no longer safe to eat may cause illness, or at the very least, disrupt the peace of a nourishing meal. Old cosmetics may irritate the skin, introduce bacteria, or simply lose their effectiveness. And emotionally, their presence whispers guilt for wasting money, for being careless, for not paying attention to yourself in the little things. In Japanese culture, this isn't just a matter of hygiene. It's a reflection of values. The philosophy of Motenai teaches us not to waste, not just out of practicality, but as a gesture of respect for the time, effort, and resources that brought each item into our lives. Throwing something away should not be done thoughtlessly, and using something beyond its proper time is not seen as wise. It is through moderation, mindfulness, and gentle habit that the Japanese preserve both their resources and their well-being. Managing food and cosmetics doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as writing the date on a jar when you open it, checking the fridge weekly to see what needs to be used soon, asking yourself before each purchase, have I truly finished what I already have? And accepting that not everything needs to be used down to the last drop, as long as it was appreciated, used with intention, and released with care. When you begin to clear out expired food and cosmetics, you'll experience a special kind of lightness. Not just because your refrigerator is cleaner or your bathroom is more organized, but because you are practicing something beautiful, caring for yourself through the smallest of choices. You are telling your body, I am paying attention. You are telling your kitchen, this is a place of nourishment, not neglect. You are telling your mind, I choose clarity over delay. And in the quiet act of releasing what is no longer safe, useful, or joyful, you'll realize that healing doesn't always arrive in grand transformations. Sometimes it begins in a freshly cleaned shelf, in a skincare routine that feels simpler and more honest, in the gentle decision that says, today, I will live with more intention. So, out of everything we explored today, which one are you most ready to let go of first? Is it that broken item that's been sitting around for too long? That drawer full of mystery cables? Or maybe that old cosmetic product you've been holding on to out of guilt? Leave a comment below. I'm ready to live lighter starting today. and share which part of the Japanese minimalist philosophy resonated with you the most. I'd love to hear your story because here, we're not just decluttering our spaces, we're healing our minds. If this video inspired you in any way, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Every week, I'll be sharing more gentle journeys like this about living with simplicity, being present, and making choices with mindfulness. And if you know someone who's feeling overwhelmed by too much stuff, send this video their way. Because peace doesn't come from having more, it comes from knowing what's enough and letting go at the right time. You don't have to change your whole life overnight. All it takes is one small decision today. I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for being here with me.